What if everything you believe about love was never meant to make you happy? What if all those stories of soulmates, of eternal connection, of someone out there who completes you, were planted not to fulfill your heart, but to serve something far more primitive? Survival? Schopenhauer didn't write fairy tales. He didn't dress reality up in soft colors or poetic hope. He wrote like a scalpel, cutting through comfort, slicing into illusions. And what he found beneath the skin of romance was something few dare to say out loud. Love, he argued, is not salvation. It is strategy, not a divine gift, but a biological trick, one designed by nature not to elevate your spirit, but to keep the species alive. To him, the emotional highs we chase, the promises we whisper, the pain we feel when it all collapses, they're not proof of love's magic, but proof of its deception. This wasn't bitterness. It was clarity, a kind of brutal honesty that modern minds find hard to swallow, because we want to believe we're special, that our love is pure, that we're choosing something eternal. But Schopenhauer would ask, are you? Or are you just obeying a pattern older than reason? He didn't say these things to destroy hope. He said them to expose what hope is often built on: denial. And once you hear what he really believed about women, about love, about human nature, you may never see relationships the same way again. The question is, are you ready to know the truth? Number 1. Women are driven by instinct, not reason. Schopenhauer believed that women are not guided by reason in the way men are, but by instinct, by biology, by the deep, silent force of nature that cares little for logic and everything for survival. He didn't say this to insult women. He said it to explain them, to peel back the surface of what society calls femininity, and expose the mechanics beneath it. According to him, women are not drawn to abstract ideals, grand philosophies, or the pursuit of legacy. Those are the burdens of men. Women, he said, are rooted in the present. They focus on what is immediate, tangible, and safe. Security, comfort, certainty, not because they are shallow, but because they are strategic. Nature gave them the role of protector, not of the tribe or the throne, but of life itself. Their instincts are wired to detect threat, avoid chaos, and nurture continuity. That's why Schopenhauer viewed female decision-making as emotional, not in the irrational sense, but in the evolutionary one. While men climb toward purpose, women navigate the present with precision. While men suffer under the weight of ideals, women adapt, quietly, intelligently, to what is. He believed that this divide runs deeper than personality. It is not the product of culture or education. It is biology. And ignoring that fact, he warned, only leads to misunderstanding. Because when we pretend that women think like men, value like men, choose like men, we blind ourselves to reality. And in that blindness, relationships fracture, expectations rot, and love turns bitter. Not because anyone did anything wrong, but because we believed a lie about sameness, when nature had already written the truth. Number 2. Female power is invisible, and that's why it works. Schopenhauer argued that women do not seek power the way men do. They don't conquer territory, launch revolutions, or etch their names into history books by force. Because they don't have to. Their power is quieter, subtler, and far more effective. He believed that a woman's influence does not lie in authority, but in suggestion. Not in domination, but in persuasion. While men build empires with weapons and will, women shape those empires with whispers and glances. It is not the king who holds the power, but the one who controls the king, and she never needs to raise her voice to do it. To Schopenhauer, beauty was the first tool, a fleeting gift, powerful in youth, irresistible in its prime. But beauty alone wasn't enough. It had to be wielded with precision, combined with emotional intuition, the ability to read people, to anticipate their reactions, to adjust behavior like a chameleon until the desired outcome was achieved, without anyone realizing they were being steered. This form of influence doesn't announce itself. That's the point. It exists in how a man changes his decisions, softens his stance, redirects his ambition. Without understanding why. He thinks he chose. But Schopenhauer would say, he was chosen to think so. From the shadows of royal courts to the corners of modern relationships, this quiet command persists. Not as manipulation in the malicious sense, but as strategy. A kind of evolutionary intelligence that bends outcomes without ever needing credit. And perhaps, that's the most dangerous kind of power, because you can't resist what you can't detect. Number 3. Men live for the future, women master the present. Schopenhauer saw time itself as a dividing line between the sexes. He believed men are possessed by the future, driven to create, to conquer, to build something that will outlast them. A man will burn his present to light the fire of a legacy he may never live to see. But women, they don't operate that way. To him, women are anchored in the now. Their instincts don't chase abstract dreams or uncertain tomorrows. They're wired to focus on what is real, what is stable, what ensures survival, today. Not next year, not 10 years from now. Today. This is why, Schopenhauer claimed, men endure suffering for the sake of ambition. They take risks, face failure, push into the unknown. Women, on the other hand, seek protection, not possibility. Security, not struggle. They choose the man who can provide now, not the one who might succeed someday. And it's not because they lack vision. It's because nature designed them to prioritize life. The life of the child, the family, the household. That life doesn't wait for ambition. It needs results. Food on the table, shelter from the storm, safety in a dangerous world. So while men are chasing mountains, women are watching the ground beneath their feet, ensuring it doesn't collapse. And here's where conflict begins. He wants to fight for greatness. She wants to make sure they survive. He sees risk as noble. She sees it as reckless. He's willing to lose it all for an idea. She wants to protect what already exists. Neither is wrong, but if you expect them to move through time the same way, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, because one lives in the dream, and the other lives in reality. Number 4. Love is not sacred, it's a biological trick. To Schopenhauer, the idea that love is pure, eternal, or spiritual is one of humanity's greatest self-deceptions. He believed love isn't designed to make us whole. It's designed to make us reproduce. Period. He called it an illusion. A brief madness engineered by nature to pull two people together long enough to create life, and then fade. What we think is destiny is actually biology in disguise, an instinct wearing the mask of emotion. Men, he said, are drawn to beauty and youth not because of romance, but because those traits signal fertility. Women are drawn to strength, status, and stability, not because of fairy tale loyalty, but because those traits signal survival. None of this is conscious. That's what makes it so effective. You feel like you're choosing someone who completes you. But in reality, nature is choosing for you. You're just the puppet, pulled by chemical strings. And once the biological goal is reached, once intimacy leads to conception, or once the promise of safety is secured, the illusion begins to crack. The passion fades, the spark dies, and you're left wondering, was it ever real? According to Schopenhauer, it never was. Love, in his view, is not a gift from the heavens. It's a calculated trick from the gene pool, a hallucination with a purpose, and that purpose is not your happiness. It's continuation, of the bloodline, of the species. So when love disappoints you, maybe it's not because you failed. Maybe it's because love did exactly what it was meant to do. And then, stepped aside. Number 5. Both men and women deceive, but they don't even know it. Schopenhauer believed that love is built on deception, but not the conscious kind. It's not lies told in malice. It's lies embedded in our instincts, lies we act out without even realizing. He argued that men often pretend to offer commitment, not out of cruelty, but because their biology pushes them toward intimacy, and commitment becomes the tool. Meanwhile, women offer affection, warmth, and devotion, not purely from emotion, but as a way to secure safety, resources, and influence. It's not evil. It's not manipulation in the cartoonish sense. It's survival. Acting through us, men signal future loyalty to access what they desire. Women mirror emotional depth to lock in what they need. And in the middle of it all, we call it romance. We call it fate. We call it love. But Schopenhauer would shake his head, because beneath the surface, what's happening is not spiritual union. It's strategic exchange, one built into the architecture of our biology. And the most tragic part? We don't even know we're doing it. We believe our words. We trust our feelings. We think this time is different. This time it's real. This time it will last. But the system is older than our dreams. It doesn't care about what we believe. It cares about what works. So when relationships collapse, when love vanishes as quickly as it arrived, maybe it's not because people are bad. Maybe it's because the evolutionary contract has already been fulfilled. And now, the illusion has no reason to stay. Number 6. Schopenhauer warned against giving women power over society. Schopenhauer didn't just question romantic ideals, he questioned the very foundation of modern social progress. He believed that giving women greater influence over politics, law, and philosophy would not lead to balance, but to breakdown, not because women are incapable, but because, in his view, their instincts are not suited for the long-term vision society demands. He saw civilization as a fragile structure, one that requires discipline, restraint, and a willingness to delay gratification. These, he believed, were masculine virtues, not because men are better, but because they are wired to suffer for the future, to sacrifice today for a distant ideal. Women, by contrast, are wired for the now. Their strength lies in preserving life, not reshaping systems. They value emotional harmony over cold logic, immediate comfort over ideological struggle. And to Schopenhauer, those instincts, while essential in private life, become dangerous when applied to public leadership. He wasn't romantic about governance. He believed a functioning society must be built on uncomfortable truths, not feelings, on duty, not desire, and if emotional instincts begin to shape law, if decisions start bending toward comfort rather than principle, then civilization begins to rot from within. He didn't hate women. He feared what happens when instinct replaces reason on a societal level. To him, the rise of emotional politics, the growing power of sentiment over structure, was not a sign of progress. It was a warning, because a society that follows its feelings too far forgets how to endure, and without endurance, nothing survives. Number 7. The modern world proves nothing and everything. At first glance, the modern world seems to have proven Schopenhauer wrong. Women now hold positions of power, lead movements, shape nations. They write the laws, run the companies, change the culture. The barriers he once saw as natural have been broken. Or so we tell ourselves. But look closer, and the deeper tensions remain. For all our talk of equality, relationships have never been more unstable. Divorce rates climb, dating culture fractures. Men and women speak the same language, but they no longer understand each other. And beneath the surface of modern progress, the ancient instincts still pulse. Schopenhauer warned that biology does not disappear with social change. You can dress instinct in new clothes, but you cannot erase it. A woman may sit in a seat of power, but if her decisions are still shaped by the need for emotional security, for comfort, for relational harmony, then the structure she governs begins to bend toward feeling, not function. And that's what we see now. Emotional appeal outweighs logic. Personal narratives overpower principle. Public discourse sounds more like therapy than philosophy. And slowly the foundation weakens, not because women are in power, but because instinct has been mistaken for virtue. Progress, Schopenhauer might argue, is not about opportunity, but about outcomes. And if the outcomes are confusion, resentment, and relational collapse, can we still call it progress? Or is it just another illusion? Built on the same denial he tried to dismantle? He wasn't against change. He was against pretending that change erases nature. Because when society forgets what it's built on, it forgets how easily it can fall. In the end, Schopenhauer's message was not about blame. It was about difference. He didn't argue that men were superior or that women were inferior. He argued that they were not designed to be the same, and pretending otherwise leads to suffering. Modern culture tells us to chase equality by erasing distinction, to believe that men and women want the same things, think the same way, feel the same pain. But Schopenhauer stood in direct opposition to that idea. He believed that when we force sameness, when we deny the reality of nature, we create chaos, not harmony. Men, he said, are burdened by ambition, by the desire to transcend the moment, to build, conquer, create legacy. That drive leads to greatness, but also restlessness, discontent, and loneliness. Women, he believed, are rooted in survival, in connection, in emotional influence. That instinct ensures continuity, but also creates a need for security that shapes everything, from who they love to what they fear. These are not social constructs. They are ancient blueprints, and when we ignore them, we pay the price. We wonder why love feels empty, why relationships fall apart, why expectations clash and no one feels seen. But the answer, Schopenhauer would argue, is simple. You were told that men and women are the same. They're not. And until we accept that, until we stop forcing a fantasy and start understanding the biology beneath it, we will keep building dreams on foundations that were never meant to hold them. Maybe that's why Schopenhauer's words still echo, 2 centuries later. Not because they flatter us, but because they expose us. And sometimes, the truth only hurts because it's real.